Dear students, now let's have a look at the next point, structure of synapse. So, for that you need to understand first the just concentrate on the BCD diagrams. So, firstly, what is synapse? Synapse is the junction between two neurons. Okay, this is basic thing, important thing to know, that the neurons, when two neurons are joined to each other or there is connection between the two neurons, that is called synapse. And actually the term synapse was proposed by Sir Charles Sherrington and M. C. Lina in 1963. M. C. Lina explained the transmission of nerve impulse through a synapse. Okay, so firstly, what about the let us see what exactly the synapses are, or different types of synapses are. Based on the nature of connections, synapses are classified into three basic types, namely axosomatic synapse. The C diagram is axosomatic synapse. The axodendritic synapse is the diagram B. It is showing axodendritic synapse, and diagram D is showing axoaxonic synapse. Okay, so what exactly axosomatic synapse is, or axodendritic or axoaxonic synapse, that we see first in this lecture. So let's see what B is showing, axodendritic synapse. So it is formed when an axon terminal ends on a dendron or dendrite of another neuron. Axon of one neuron and dendrite of another neuron, when they come in contact or when they are attached, then that type of synapse is called axodendritic synapse. The second one is axosomatic synapse. C diagram shows axosomatic synapse, which is formed when an axon ends on a soma of another neuron. How it is formed? It is formed when an axon of one neuron ends on a soma or cyton of another neuron. This is called axosomatic synapse. And the third one is axoaxonic synapse, which is formed when an axon ends on the axon of another neuron. Means both the neurons and their axons, they are coming in contact. Axoaxonic synapse. Okay. Now in a synapse, the terminal branch of axon of one neuron comes in contact with dendrite or cyton of another neuron. The neuron contributing the axon is called presynaptic neuron. The other neuron is called postsynaptic neuron. There lies a gap between the presynaptic neuron and postsynaptic neuron. So the neuron contributing the axon is called presynaptic neuron and another neuron is called postsynaptic neuron. Okay, and what the gap is? Gap between the presynaptic neuron and postsynaptic neuron is called synaptic cleft. Okay, and the presynaptic fiber ends in an expanded terminal called synaptic knob. The membrane of synaptic knob is called presynaptic membrane and that of the postsynaptic fiber is called postsynaptic membrane. Now after that, the synaptic knob contains mitochondria. Okay, now in this diagram the types of synapses are again on the basis of where they occur. They are synapses with another neuron. This is the first diagram, that is neuron 1, which is connected to another neuron, is a type of synapse with another neuron that we have seen just now in this previous slide. The next is neuromuscular junctions, means one neuron when it is coming in contact with the skeletal muscle fibers. So this type of synapse is called neuromuscular junctions. Neuroglandular synapses. Last one is neuroglandular synapse, means one neuron when it comes in contact with gland cells, when it is attached to the gland cells, that kind of synapse is called neuroglandular synapse. Then here the next diagram shows how actually synapse is taking place. Now the synaptic knob contains mitochondria and a large number of vesicles called synaptic vesicles. The synaptic vesicles are filled with a chemical substance called neurotransmitter. It is acetylcholine. The neurotransmitters mediates the transmission of impulses from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. The membrane of the postsynaptic fiber contains special molecular sites called chemoreceptors. The transfer of information across a synapse is called synaptic transmission. The transmission of impulse through synapse involves two processes, namely neurosecretion by the new axon and chemoreception by the dendron. When the impulses reaches the synaptic knob, the synaptic vesicles rupture and the transmitter substance, that is acetylcholine, is liberated. Further, this acetylcholine diffuses into the synaptic cleft and becomes attached to the chemoreceptors of the plasma membrane and dendrons to form acetylcholine chemoreceptor complex. So, when this acetylcholine chemoreceptor complex is formed, this causes depolarization of the membrane and it produces an impulse. The impulse runs down the dendron. So this is called the impulse which is generated and it is moving now towards the dendron. Immediately after transmission of impulse, the acetylcholine is destroyed by an enzyme called acetylcholine esterase present in the membrane of dendron. And this enzyme splits acetylcholine by hydrolysis into acetic acid and choline. So after transmission of the impulse, acetylcholine esterase breaks the complex and it forms acetylcholine, acetic acid and choline separately, or it splits it into two pieces. When this occurs, the membrane is repolarized and is coming to the resting stage. So resting stage is attained. So this is how exactly the synapse is taking place, and all these events occur in 0.6 milliseconds. Such as less time is required to transmit the the nerve impulse through the synapse. Okay.